Step number 12 is cost resourcing. We're going to look at three columns within the software. We're going to look at budgeted cost, physical percent complete, and earned value cost. Now, keep in mind that this is physical percent complete. Make sure you use that because that's the actual physical on-site work that has been completed. Okay, so these three columns is really what we need in order to properly cost load a schedule. It's important to know that not all activities have cost. I mean, this submittal, for example, exterior window submittal, it doesn't have a cost associated with it. But you know, there are some activities that do have costs associated with it, like place concrete footings. So let's go through how you assign cost to an individual activity. So if I were to say, okay, I need to change this number or assign cost here, I can go to my resource and I can assign an individual cost. I'd hit add resource, and then you'll see that there's no resources put in here. So we got to go ahead and go and add resources in. So we're going to go to our resources tab, resource assignments. And then we're going to go ahead and add a resource in. Let's see. Oh, not add resource assignments. We meant resources, not resource assignments. So we're going to go ahead and add a resource in. We'll hit OK. We're going to add plus add. It's going to say, do you want to add a resource? Sure, we do. Okay. So we can go through here, and I'm going to name this resource 200, and I'm going to name the resource lump sum cost. Okay, so hit finish, and then when we add that in, we're going to make sure that we have $1 for every day, and that's really the only thing that you need to modify. You need to make a labor resource. Okay, labor. If you go here, you'll see it's a labor resource. We want to make sure that it auto computes actuals and calculates the cost from the units. And we want the unit price to be $1 per day. Now that we have that resource identified, we can go back to the activities, and these are some of the other resources I had from other projects I was working on. We go back to the activities tab, and we're going to assign that resource R200 to this task. Now we're going to go ahead and go in here. It's $1 per budget. The budgeted cost is $1. There's numerous different ways to go through and do this. I'm going to show you one way. If I would say I'm going to add $10,000. I want this task to be $10,000. Okay. Let's go. Budget cost. Excuse me. If I was going to go to the budget cost and say, I'm going to make it $10,000. Well, give me a little trouble here. Now we have $10,000 assigned. You'll see we had $15,000 assigned to this cost, and we added another 10. Now and this is one way of adding cost, and this is the correct way of adding cost, is where we go in the budgeted cost, type it in after we add a resource in here. There are other ways. The other ways are where we just go through and add, add in cost through a different mechanism, and that can be done too. But that's not it's called expenses. And if we right click here, customize window, and we look at expenses, this is another way of doing it. I don't normally do this at all, but I go ahead and I just you can add resources in the same way here. I don't do that because there are systems like QCS, that's now RMS, that require to pull the data out of Primavera through a standard data exchange file, that you have to have it as a resource. So you see we have 10,000 there. So if we want to make it 20,000, we just simply type in 20,000 under budgeted cost. If you don't see all these columns, just right click, customize the resource, and bring those columns up. So we can go ahead and do that for every task that has a cost associated with it. Like I said before, not all tasks have costs, but some do. How do you take the cost from the estimate and apply it to the schedule? And this is a hard thing because we want to have what we're awarded in our estimate, what we're going to bill the client, because that's what our budgeted total cost is what we're going to bill the client. And we're going to have to do reasonably put together a schedule values, and that's what this is, schedule with values attached to it that we can bill the client. We're early on in construction, so that makes it tough. So you take your estimate and you try to look at scope letters from subcontractors, try to use best guess estimates. There's some guessing that has to take place in the very front end of this. So when we talk about front end loading and some stuff like that, that's why I'm going to teach you the next step. So you always want to make sure you're billing your total dollar value. Say we were awarded the job at $729,500. Make sure that's what you were awarded at, because all the information is going to roll up. It'll roll up per CSI divisions, per every level of WBS, and at the top you want to make sure it matches your total awarded cost. So now I want to go ahead and say, okay, what if I want to check it to make sure that I'm being reasonable, because there's a lot of assumptions being made. So how would somebody on the outside be able to look at my schedule here and tell me if it's reasonable, if my cost associated is reasonable? If you go to tracking, and there's a tracking tab here, and what it does is, you can ultimately track cost, and that's what we're going to try to do here. Is we're going to see if we have you can see the planned value, estimated value. Estimated value, you kind of see where it is. Let's zoom this in. Okay. And let's go over here a little bit. So we want to see, is there, and this is kind of zoomed in a little bit too much, we want to see, is there an S-curve, okay? And you can kind of see, because once it gets to this level, it's done, the project is done. So we want to see, is there an actual S-curve? And you can see there is an S there. Looks kind of like an S. And the reason for this is because we start slow and we end slow. We start slow because we're just getting mobilization and starting activities, getting different trades out there. It starts slow. The amount of work to take place at the front end is minor compared to where it does it on the back end. Now, on the back end, we're also going to finish slow, because we have things like punch list and other items like that. So you can see we have the estimated completion, and then we have the green line, which is remaining labor cost. So if I wanted to look to see if this is reasonable or not from a cost perspective, this is what I would do. I would simply, this is a better view and greater view of what's occurring here. I would simply just draw a line, and I would draw a line. Let's see. I would draw a line, either print it out and manually draw a line through it, or just simply, draw a line to give us an idea if it's reasonable or not. Now, Microsoft Project, you have a tool, that you're able to actually draw stuff on here, and in Primavera you're kind of limited in that way. So I know that when I normally do this, we print this out and we go through it, but you're basically going to draw a line from here to here, okay? And the reason that you're doing that is because you want to have, and I'm going to go ahead and just I'm just going to do a print screen real quick, and I'm going to go ahead and print screen this. And I'm print screening that because now I can draw. And so I'm going to draw a line from here. Oh, that's not what I want to do. So I am attempting to just strictly, draw a line from one place to the other, and look at the effect of, of what the cash flow is. So and I'm seeming to have some trouble here. So, and none of the lines end up working for me here. So don't save that. But if I were to just draw a line and I were to go, okay, in blue pen, let me erase this. Okay, let me draw this in here. And I'm going to try to do my best to draw it. So we're going to go from here all the way down to about right there. It's the best, closest I'm going to get to a straight line. And you can see that there's a, about halfway we're actually most of our costs are on the back end. You want to get this line as close to the theoretical line, that's the line I just drew, as possible, because that's where your costs need to occur. You can tell if you're front end loaded if your line looks more like this. And it crosses really soon. So we want to get it as close. So we would want to move dollars around to try to get it to mirror that line as close as possible until about the halfway point, and then it goes and it completes. And the reason being is because we're early on in construction. We're not doing anything unethical. We just got to understand if we're above that line, that theoretical line, we're essentially asking for more money than we're probably earning. So we don't want that to occur. We want, to be as close to what theoretically we should be. And, that is not so clear on the front end. And that's why we got to move money around. So when I talk about moving money around, what do I mean? I mean simply this. You go back to the activity tab and you may be on the activities that take place later in construction, we move some money around to earlier in construction. Maybe it's not, 12,000 there, maybe more like 2,000. And we take the extra 10,000 and we put it at, activities that are closer to the beginning. So something like that. We're moving money around one way or the other. So we're moving money. We sort by the early start. We're moving money from activities that take place later on in construction to activities that take place early on in construction. So front end loading is what we don't want to do because that's unethical. We're asking for more money than we deserve. But we're so early on in construction, we have to make some estimates. Some guesses, and then that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to take the estimate and trying to accurately predict what's going to happen in the future. So moving money from the end to the beginning is what we're trying to do. Once again, not trying to be unethical here. We're just trying to accurately picture our cash flow needs and what we should be in the future. So that covers cost resource loading. We went over the 3 columns of budget cost, the physical percent complete, the earned value. When I simply type in a number, we'll get into this physical percent complete. It'll give me, if I type in 100%, it'll give me 17,500. If I type in 50% here, it's going to give me 5,000. So it automatically computes that for us. So that pretty much covers cost resources in Primavera.